All right, welcome everybody. I think we're letting everyone in. Welcome. I feel like we should say pull up a seat. We should have the joining music, all of those things. Although Nahul, this is where I asked Sue on our last webinar if she was going to sing. So she said she wasn't because we didn't have entry music. So maybe it's on you. Are you going to do our opening entry music?
I don't think anyone wants to hear that, Alia.
That's what I said. Last chance me.
I get it. Well, we will give a couple minutes for folks to join us and then we will get started. Happy Thursday for everyone. Let me just make sure I've got the chat open in case anybody sends anything in. As you get settled, attendees, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to use the question and answer tile, and we will follow those and either deal with those as they come up or we'll hold them for the end. But we appreciate your time. I'll just give it another minute and then we will get started.
Great.
All right, here we go. I am going to get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Annalia Morrow, and I am with Avaap. My focus is on primarily higher education, innovation, and strategy for all of our projects, including Workday, data and analytics, OCM. And so excited to have you with us. I'm so pleased to be able to facilitate this webinar with Sue Bork from Lambent, who you'll hear from in a minute, and Nahul Vyas from Avaap. Um, Vanessa, we can go to the next slide and let's get into introductions. Before we do, the reason that we are having this webinar is because we're so excited to talk about our partnership between Avaap and Lambent. Um, we'll tell you more about what each of the organizations does, but we're excited to think about ways that when we talk to clients, we know that they are really interested in ways that they can be good fiscal stewards. They can of course, look for new revenue sources, shifting revenue sources. And so we feel that this partnership helps us be even better trusted advisors to be able to bring this partnership to them as an opportunity to perhaps save some money, find some new revenue. And so this webinar is focusing on all of the wonderful things that Lambent can do for the institution, and then how we can continue to give insight and transparency into that data that Nahul will talk a little bit more too. So Nahul, I'm going to start with you and let you do an introduction of yourself, and then I'll go to Sue and we'll talk a little bit about Lambent. So why don't you introduce yourself, say hi to everyone, and we'll get started.
Awesome. Thank you, Analia. Hello, everyone. My name is Nahul Vyas. I'm a vice president here at AVAP. I help run a national portfolio of data analytics and AI customers. My job is really to help provide some really strong context and awareness of all the great data possibilities that folks in higher ed, folks in state and local government have an opportunity to harness. And I think it's so exciting, Sue, to be here with you and capturing all of the essence that's going to come with this partnership and really how we can make a lot of people more intuitively aware of the ways that they can be harnessing a lot of the facilities data.
Yes. All right, Sue, why don't you introduce yourself? We'll jump in.
Yes. Hi, I'm Sue Borg. I am the campus technology advisor for Lambent. I have been in the public sector market for 34 plus years and very, very excited about this position over at Lambent because it's a new frontier for higher ed, so to speak. The ability to actually have this data. We provide great data, right? But we've got AVAP, our partners, to actually be the brains behind that data, and they're really going to be able to help you save save money, be great stewards of new innovation and strategy as you move forward, because they understand your space in the market. So again, thank you so much for having us and me today, more so than anything. Can't wait to get started.
Thank you. Well, let's talk about Lambent and what makes you all so different and what you are doing to look at these issues at the institutions.
Yeah, so really interesting the way that Lambent came about. So, the way that people used to collect data on higher ed institution campuses was by sending out surveys, which are never really accurate because people never want to say they're not using their space. Or they might be doing campus walkabouts, which is really just a point in time of data. On March 3rd, there were these many people in this classroom in this building, or using static data like scheduling systems, which say we have this many buildings, these many classrooms, and these many people are registered. But after COVID, the way that people teach, learn, and study is so different. Zoom has just become a big proponent where people aren't on campus all the time and people aren't working in their office. There's that remote hybrid component. So, really trying to get an understanding of how and when spaces are used and by how many people became very relevant. And that's where Lambent comes in. So we're able to provide, using your existing Wi-Fi access point, anonymized data, again, on how and when your spaces are used and by how many people, so that you can make data-driven decisions. We can scale quickly and easily. I mean, whether you're looking at one floor of a building or your entire campus. We're going to provide you historical and near real-time data, not only in easy-to-read dashboards, but customized and out-of-the-box reports for every single department within an institution. And in addition, we can provide that same data to those companies outside of your institution that support you. So think of your architects, your building automation folks, your IWMS people, your food and beverage, vending. I mean, if you're looking at any one of those companies, they still need the same data to enable them to help support you in a better fashion. So Lambent is really kind of turning the ear on the marketplace by providing this true data.
I love that. And I want to focus a little bit on that anonymized data because it's not that you're getting the information about who people are and then scrubbing it. It's anonymous when it comes to you, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Great point. We don't sit on the actual network. We provide a remote server, a virtual server. And this is data that the institution's already collecting. So we just ask them to send us the hashed MAC addresses into our server. And from there, that hashed MAC addresses or the anonymized data gets filtered into our dashboard and reports. So a great, easy process that IT and networking and your CISOs are going to love because, again, we're not sitting on the network. We're not collecting any PII data. It's all anonymized on your site before it even comes to us. And the big differentiation piece I would say about Lambent is, the fact that again, you're sending us the data, it's a push component. So even if there was happening to be some type of cyber attack within Lambent, there's no way that cyber attack would filter through and into the institution. 100% safeguarded from that component.
Great point. Now you list some of your customers here, but I know everybody wants to know, okay, so what is some real ROI that you've seen? And so I know this is my favorite slide. I love this. I love the stories. So let's talk about some of the things that you have, the ROI that your schools have recognized.
Yeah, and this is so crazy, these numbers, and people look at these and they're like, that can't actually be true. And 100% it is. So I would say one of the biggest cost saving metrics that we have is from an HVAC perspective. Our ability to provide data, again, when people are in buildings and when they're not, so that institutions can adjust the chillers based on that data. Normally, they base that data on, say, a scheduling system or an ERP system. But again, with Zoom and the way that the remote works place, that's not actual real data. So by having this real data and integrating in with those building automation systems, we allow the institutions to just tweak those chillers just a little bit in order to save big amounts of money. And this is an example I use a lot, but at Nova Southeastern, we did a pilot in 7 buildings, and in 6 months, they saved over $1 million. That doesn't include the wear and tear on the equipment, the rebates they got back from Florida Power and Light. They are now going to expand to all of their campuses within the state of Florida, and the savings are just going to be astronomical from this point. Oh, and by the way, they use multiple building automation systems. It's not just one, they have many. So that saving component is really going to be key for Nova as they move forward and starting to look at different ways that they can apply those savings.
Right, right. So let's talk about, I know that you talked also about leases and how Purdue was able to make some savings with some building and construction plans too.
Yeah, and cost avoidance, with these off-campus leases become really critical. We run into so many institutions that have offices off campus because they think they don't have space. But when they get our data and they start to realize that there's more than enough space on campus, they can then go cancel those off-campus lease spaces and bring those people back on. Whether those are administrators or grad students, as in Purdue's case. I mean, this was a really fantastic use case. We recognized that there were computer labs at Purdue that they were spending a $750,000 a year on. IT was paying for that. Nobody was using them. So we were able to redesign, or I should say Purdue was able to redesign that space and then bring back those grad students from off campus. And now they have a home on campus. They feel more part of the community. So it does more than just keeping those people on campus and canceling those lease spaces. It's really bringing life to the campus.
Right. So let's talk about the life too, because one of the more creative stories that I've heard from you is what University of Tennessee did with their vending machine revenue. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, and Alia, that's a great point. We talk a lot about how we can save money, but here's an institution that's coming back to us saying, "Oh, I think we can actually make money with your solution," which is crazy. Who's saying that to higher ed these days? So their student life folks came back to us and said, "We have vending machines all over campus. We have a hard time kind of managing them. And we have two systems. We'd rather just, be able to put where those vending locations are within the Lambent dashboard." And we said, "Sure, no problem." And our data folks started to dig into it and realized that, gosh, some of these vending machines are in locations on floors where there's no traffic. What's going on? And we brought that to light to them. And in just a couple of instances, we were able to move a vending machine that was doing, say, 7 cases in all of 2024. We moved it to a more trafficked, more populated hallway where it did over 40 cases in 1 month. I mean, that's just one machine bringing in money. And, the really interesting part about this is they turned around and came back to us and said, "Well, we didn't even think about a different possibility. We can start, charging more for advertising in highly trafficked areas." So if Chick-fil-A wants to advertise in the student center or the dining hall at certain times, and this is a really highly trafficked area, we might be able to charge a little bit more for this. So it's really fun to see the light bulb turn on in a lot of these institutions, realizing that it's not just a saving modes for HVAC or right sizing buildings or canceling leasings. It's really now starting to extend into some different areas. That's been really fun for us.
I bet that's just exciting to even think about the possibilities. So I know that there are questions of those who are listening, thinking, okay, so this is going to take a really long time. I already have a lot on my plate. No more projects. This is going to take too long. How much time should they plan that this is going to take to install?
Yeah. And we get that all the time. And today with IT being so backlogged with so many jobs and projects coming down the pipeline, it's interesting because every time we come to them, they're like, "Oh no, here we go again." But the really cool part about our solution is we not only install it remotely, but we really only need maybe 30 minutes to 2 hours of IT's time. 2 hours would be a max. And really, what we're just trying to do at that point is work with them to connect their data. So, providing them that virtual server and really making sure that connection's going. Once that's done, we're off and running. And then we can start collecting the data. And the moment that we are receiving those hash MAC addresses from the institution, we're collecting that data and we can start building reports. So when you talk about time to market, how fast we can deploy, nobody can touch us. We're deploying huge campuses in a matter of hours, if not a day, and being able to provide the reports within minutes. So for any type of customer looking at this, going, "Oh, it's going to take 3 months, 6 months to deploy this. What is that, going to look like? I don't want to wait for that." Not true at all. And so for IT, not having to worry about a ton of workload on this, having it be deployed virtually, and then being able to walk away and not worry about it becomes a huge win.
That's amazing. I mean, I think that that's such a quick time to value. So I know we'll let that sink in. And I want to look at one of the maps that you provide of what the traffic looks like around campus. Could you talk a little bit about how this is being used? And then we'll dig in even a little further on this.
Yeah, being able to understand the traffic flows on campus become really critical, right? This is a great point of where we work so well with AVAP, right? We can provide great data, and then AVAP can go back to the customer to say, well, based off what's happening here, we might want to make some changes, or we've got room to grow or room to redesign. This particular customer was actually looking to put in a new dining hall, but didn't understand exactly where to put it in this location. One, they thought they were going to have to build a brand new building, but we were able to provide them data that showed them where there was open swing space in this main campus area and the foot traffic pattern that occurs on every single day throughout a week, a month, a semester. So they knew instantaneously exactly where to put that dining hall in a matter of minutes.
I
No
love
more
that.
walking the campus, no more doing surveys or trying to understand, static data, which could take months.
Yeah. And not only the traffic pattern, but this also shows how the leased or the subleased space may, based on the traffic pattern, may be an opportunity for some savings. So additional information you want to add here?
Yeah, and this is such a great map because it really shows, you know, real estate or facilities or the registrar, what's happening on campus. So, a great example of this could be, we had a broken pipe. Where can we put people for to keep running classes? We can quickly and easily find swing space that they didn't think was available. Or if office space is coming down, and instead of leasing off space, what if you could find space that's on campus? And then just knowing if there's buildings that aren't being used. What if we could redesign those buildings, go into deferred maintenance early, or divest them, or sublease them to the community? It gives you a great idea of what's happening on campus so that you can make those data-driven decisions.
And why don't you talk a little bit about the zones? Because I know you have the floor based and the building and all of those things. So I want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when we first started, we were actually providing data by zone. And by zone, I mean very granular. So if you think of by classroom or by office space or by lab space, how many people are in those spaces? We can provide zone level data. Again, very granular. But we had a lot of institutions come back to us and say, what if I just want to know how many people are on a floor because I've got, again, off-campus lease space, or if I'm looking at that HVAC savings. I just need to know how many people are on the floor. So we then decided to offer floor level data. And the wonderful thing about Lambent is you can mix and match these, not only within a building, but all throughout your campus. So we have a lot of campuses that are just wanting to get the HVAC savings. So they'll deploy floor level data throughout the entire campus. And then they'll come back to us and say, well, gosh, look, we want to start to hone in on the academic space. So can we convert that floor level data in all the academic buildings to zone? Absolutely. And oh, by the way, since we've been collecting the data since day one, we can now go back to the beginning of the day that we started collecting data and give you all those reports in those academic spaces now at zone, in addition to what you were getting at floor. So it gives them a
Retroactively.
totally
That's
different
huge.
perspective.
Yeah, that is huge. And that also helps them understand how to better utilize the space and how to organize, especially as they're thinking about new buildings. If we go to the next one, I love how this slide helps explain how these buildings might be reconfigured and how it's affecting them.
Yeah, presidents love this, real estate, architects love this
Mhm.
because it's giving you the health of the campus. So in the upper right-hand quadrant, we can actually tell them, hey, these are your newer buildings and they're being highly occupied. So the way that you design those is spot on. And if you move per se to the upper left-hand quadrant, these are old buildings that aren't being used. So they're probably candidates for renovation. And if you were going to renovate them, what do you do with those students or faculty and staff while those are being renovated? Well, you can look to the bottom right-hand corner where you've got new buildings that aren't being used. So there's your swing space while you're doing those renovations. But it gives you a great perspective just at a quick glance of what's happening on campus, what buildings are being used, what aren't, and what buildings are being older or the newer buildings and comparing those.
I love this. And so this is about the space, but going back to your HVAC example, I find this interesting too to see what those patterns are just to change the chillers.
Right? And here again, we can provide how many people are in those buildings or in those spaces or in those floors at any point in time so that the folks at the institution can work with their BAS provider to start adjusting those chillers. I use this example in particular quite a lot because it seems to be repetitive wherever we go. But we'll have institutions that'll say, well, we have to leave the air conditioning or the heat on until 9 o'clock at night because the professors are always in their office. But when we look at our data, there's no one in those offices, building or floor, past 4 o'clock. So just by tweaking the chillers a little bit, just 4 hours makes it a tremendous impact. And here you can just see, the occupancy during the days of the week and how we adjusted the setbacks for these institutions. I mean, they had adjusted the hours, just, 2,700 hours, saving 718 hours, which is a huge number. I mean,
Yeah.
the runtime at 21%. I mean, who would think that you would be getting numbers of $1 million from that? But that's a huge number and a true number from every institution that we talk to.
I want to give you the opportunity to also share the story you told me about the institution that had the cleaning crew in the library in the middle of the night. And then by looking at this data, they moved them to morning. Wanted to talk about that.
Yes, that was such a great story. That was actually one of our first use cases was really understanding, sanitation cleaning schedules and picking up recycling bins. We were starting to see, numbers for facilities at this one institution, understanding that their faculty folks were coming in, cleaning the area at 3 a.m., at 2 a.m., because they thought that was the least amount of populated time in the library. Well, when we started doing analysis of the library, we actually showed them that that was the most populated time in the library. So they were able to then, facilities move the sanitation cleaning crew to 8 a.m. when nobody's in the library. So they went from paying overtime before of when they were having them come in at 2 and 3 o'clock to clean and pick up the recycling bins to going back to, a regular pay period because they just moved them to a regular time frame. Small things like that make huge cost savings for the institution. And by the way, we're also servicing the students, right? We're not bothering them while they're studying.
Right.
Same thing with the, relocation of the vending machines. It is making the money, but it's also better servicing the students. And if you see the sales going up, you're obviously providing a service to the students, faculty, and staff.
Right. Well, that's why I love this because I'm all about students and serving them well. I know Nahul, you're smiling because you are as well. So just saving money or making money makes it even that much sweeter. So let's talk a little bit the overview of how you all come into an organization and how you work.
Yes, and this one, I really loved working with Avaap on this because I think they saw the hard work that we put into it. Because a lot of times we'll go into institutions and they'll ask us how we're collecting the data, and we're using your existing Wi-Fi access points, and they said, well, gosh, we could do that. It's not that simple. We make it look simple, but there's a lot of work that goes in behind the curtain. So if you look from left to right, you've got your Wi-Fi access points on the far left-hand side. They're feeding data into your Wi-Fi controllers, and that we're going to provide you that virtual server where you're going to send us those hash MAC addresses. So we're going to take that information and then we're going to move it into what we call kind of our cleaning system, where we're going to take that raw data and we're going to scrub it and we're going to clean it. And here's a simple example. When we get all of this data from the Wi-Fi access points, we need to look at some data points that are static, things that aren't moving, because that's an indicator for us that it's not a student, it's not a person, it's not a faculty member, it's not a staff member, it's not a person, it's probably a printer or computer. So if we can recognize that certain things aren't moving or not being picked up by the Wi-Fi access points, let's clean that up. Let's take those items out. So we're giving actual real true data back to the institution on, what's coming through the Wi-Fi components. Once it's cleaned, we'll then, analyze that data and put it up into the dashboards and the reports. And it's really fun for us because those dashboards and reports that we've created for our customers, we put a lot of thought process into them. So the dashboard, very easy to use. We pick out low-hanging fruit right away. But the reports, we work with each department so that we're providing reports the way that they want to see the data in a cadence of when they want to see it. So facilities may want to see a heat map every Monday morning at 8 o'clock, but the provost maybe wants to see data every other Friday at 5 o'clock. So let's provide them that data and the way that they want and when they want it so they can, again, start to make those data-driven decisions from that component.
Love that. And we are excited to partner because we can take that data and give even more analysis. So when we think about Of course, we are a Workday deployment partner, and we would love to have Workday data, whether it's student registration data, which faculty are in which room, or how many students are registered for a room. Certainly, that can be something that's there. Who's in the which housing dining halls, residence halls. But beyond that, AVAP also is focused on a very large change management practice and post-production support. But our data and analytics and AI team are really taking that to the data part to the next level, connecting all of those pieces. So Nehul, why don't you talk about some of the ways that we can bring data together, and then I'll go specifically to the offering we have with Lambent, but talk in general about what our team is doing with data and AI.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sue, that was a phenomenal overview, by the way. And as a data junkie, I'm just so excited at the capability you're presenting, which basically is sourcing all this great facilities data, curating it so it's governed, it's true to life, and then it's being able to be propagated and used in really mindful ways. I know you all have a great reporting tool within your system. What we see, Analia, from a higher ed perspective specifically, is this lens of 360. And a lot of those use cases, Sue, that you were talking about resonate with me because the folks that we're speaking with are looking at these really weighty items as student success, operational efficiency, supplier management, facilities management, having the predictive lens of making mindful CapEx and OpEx investments, right? And the richness of that data coming from the Lambent ecosphere, coupling with Analia, a lot of the data and analytics capabilities we're instituting, again, from a longitudinal and a 360 perspective, it's just going to enhance those insights. And I think about the mission statement of an institution, driving, again, an environment where students can thrive, faculty and staff are safe. How do we nurture this type of environment? We need the operational efficiency to do so. Lambent's technologies provide that, coupled with additional insights. And I just think about all those use cases. Again, when I think about student success, so you mentioned facilities. Another great part that comes with that is even public safety, campus safety. When I think about people that are in buildings late at night, a library use case where, hey, we're cleaning at night, we actually have students there. Those are all really mindful things that a campus can holistically ingest and make mindful decisions on, either policy, putting resources, making mindful investments, and then certainly, again, capitalizing all the facilities that they have in-house and maximizing revenue attainment from that. And Aaliyah, you're on mute for a quick second.
Well, somebody had to do it. Might as well be me. Yeah, I had something drop outside my door, so I thought I would quickly go on mute. You talked about security. I know that there are other systems that we might want to integrate just to give that deeper view of what the possibilities are. So, Sue, you talked about how our team has that consulting experience to take all of the data and help drive some insights. And Nahul, we've done some additional dashboard work, of course, bringing all of that data to light. Anything you want to add there on pulling the transparency through on the data?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as we think about ingesting all of this high valuable but disparate system data that comes into an institution, and then again, curating it, Analia, it offers us having conversations with leaders in the institution to do more with their data. And I think maybe this is a cheesy way of saying it, but I'll be darned if it doesn't break down data silos. When we can cross-pollinate facilities data, all that richness of data that Lambent is able to provide, and couple it with ERP data, student information data, CRM data, supplier management data, inventory data,
Yeah,
the opportunities for ideating on those use cases are really powerful. And the best part of it is this consolidation, this unification of data allows institutional leaders to speak to each other in more creative and mindful ways. It's a powerful combination when folks that are focused on student success, facilities, and the Office of CFO all see a use case unifying together because they have the data at hand to make mindful decisions. We
right.
see it, and it's a really powerful combination. Again, super excited about the partnership that we have with Lambent.
Yes, any kind of informed decision is a better decision, right? For those who are in attendance, if you have questions, please use the question and answer function I think we had one come in, Sue, about your the vendors that you work with. Do you have partnerships with them for HVAC and other companies that folks may be using already?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We if we don't have a partnership with one of them, I'd be surprised, but there's always some interesting ones out there for sure. But we do our best to make sure that we have a partnership with all of the HVAC components, IDMS, your food and beverage folks as well. We really want to make sure that we've got that partnership so that we can either share the data with them or we've got an open API, which makes it really easy to integrate and to start sharing the data automatically. So at any point in time, if you want to come back and ask Analia or myself, hey, do you partner with this one? We're happy to answer that question. And I would say another really big interesting part is with the HVAC components, we run into a lot of institutions that tell us that they have a Frankenstein system. They have multiple HVAC systems running. So whether you've got Trane, Carrier, Siemens all on site, no problem. Again, we can work with all of them simultaneously.
That's great. And Nahul, I know our team is well versed in integrations with APIs to lots of different systems. So again, not a problem to bring in those other data sources to have that holistic picture. It has been wonderful to chat with you and get to hear your story, hear about what Lambent is doing, hear about this exciting partnership between Lambent and Avaap. We appreciate the time of our attendees, and I so appreciate having the time to spend with you, Sue, and with you, Nahul, to chat about the partnership and all the possibilities. I hope that people are as excited as we are. It may not be possible for people to be quite as excited because we have a lot of passion, but it's okay. We will share our passion with you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is on the screen. We appreciate your time. Thank you for being with us, and we hope you all have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.